Welcome, fellow travelers, to the Never Ending Adventure podcast, the only podcast that gives you a little bit of that sweet, sweet deja vu. This week's episode covers Jake the Dog, Season 5, Episode 2, Day 2. As Tuesday, we uploaded a corrupt file. So thank you for bearing with us as we got that sorted out, and I hope you enjoy it. Not my podcast child, for I birthed you into a new life. The age of dad jokes and chronic existentialism is upon us. Where's Nettie P at? Where's Nettie P?
I'm just chilling over here, bro. Wasteland style.
Just chill. Like Big D, man. You're just chilling like Big D, dude.
Just like Big D. I do like how Big D in this episode is so calm in the face of seeing the world like explode.
Oh, totally. Yeah, sees the world explode. He's totally chill, and then
he's
also
proud of his gang for betraying him. He's like, I trained you well to betray me.
Yeah, this is exactly like it was meant to be. Like, I'm so proud of you guys for bailing on me when things didn't look things were looking bleak. They don't look so good. I get it, man.
If you can't tell, we are talking about the final wrap up to our 3-parter in between season 4 and 5, Jake the Dog. I wish they would kind of name these like 3 or 4 episode arcs. So we don't really get names until there's like an 8 episode miniseries. But I don't know, if you had to name this one, would you just call it like Prismo's Multiverse of Madness, like something like that?
It's got to be something like that, right? It's got to be something with Prismo, or even just like an intro to Farm World, or an intro to, I don't know, man. Like, there's got to be something. I'm not the guy.
Quasi corporeal kerflunkled mess ups or something like that.
Something like that. No, I really enjoyed. I mean, this 3-part series, and this episode especially, to me, is the best of the 3. I love this episode. I think this is a super cool way to finish this off. And it doesn't really feel fair to say that the last episode wasn't as good. The last episode needed to be what it was to lead into like this big finale that it is this 3rd episode. So I was super excited to see this for the first time and get some of my questions finally answered, and to finally be on a path that makes me really intrigued of where we're going to go and learn what the heck that connection is with the LSP, as we talked about last episode, where she's in a totally different dimension than them entirely. Like, there's so much more that, like, I'm excited. I want to go back and rewatch things with this mindset and see how it changes my view on the land of Ooh as I'm going through the first 4 seasons.
Yes, I think, and we'll keep getting into season 5, and I think a lot of season 5 is revisiting old concepts, revisiting old characters, getting deeper into the lemon grab story, like a lot deeper into the lemon grab stories, a lot deeper into bubblegum stories, a lot deeper into Flame Princess stories. So as all of that kind of unfolds, it is nice to say, like, hey, I think this is what we're going to do with NEA and beyond, is as we have another Flame Princess story come up, we'll actually maybe go back and revisit that first Flame Princess episode and be like, how does this change, especially your perspective on FP? I'm
excited for that, man. I took notes today because we're going to talk about the first episode, Slumber Party Panic, on NEA and beyond, for the first episode. And I've got new questions, new thoughts, new ways of viewing that episode entirely that I'm just so excited to get to. I totally forgot that Starchy blows up, dude. Anyway, we could get into that.
We will get into that today. You have to pay for that exclusive content on the Patreon, which we will we'll start linking that out too on social media once it's all up and running. So don't feel like we're going to be leaving you guys hanging at all. Yeah,
I don't know if we need to announce the date of when that's going to be. I mean, I don't know. We're doing a bad job of saying when that's going to come out. But anyways, we'll figure it out.
That has to be way more organic. If that becomes another week-to-week intense release, we're going to stop enjoying just posting, creating content, things like that.
Yeah. Well,
but back to
Jake the Dog. I can't get enough, baby. I can't get enough of my netty time.
My netting time.
My netty time.
I like that. That rusty time.
See, it doesn't work that way. That's the worst. That's actually the worst thing you've ever said.
Rusty time.
Wow, I hate that so much. Moving on. Ned, does your neck hurt? Like, because my neck's kind of hurting after watching this episode. Just the constant whiplash that this episode gave me from one moment, it's like, hey, we're hanging out with Finn. He's going insane. There's just so many things happening. The world's blowing up. A new ice age might start. His best friend's turning into the Lich, and his family just left him forever. And then the very next second, it's like, oh, what's up, Cosmic Al? How you doing?
Yeah.
We're just like eating Sandies and chilling, and just having a good old time. What have you been up to? It is constantly back and forth, and it definitely gave me a bit of whiplash this episode.
Yeah, I liked that aspect of it, because the last episode in Finn the Human we got, it is just a straight, just walkthrough of, here is this Farm World Finn adventure. Here's the Destiny Gang. Here's what's happening. And then he puts the crown on at the very end. And I think the jump back and forth is to very much kind of get you back into the mindset of how, again, powerful Prismo is. This is, it's happening, but it's not necessarily happening in real time if you really think about it. So Jake's wish is, at the end of the day, like, it's not important that he makes the wish immediately. It's not important that he makes the wish after. What my theory is that Farm World Finn dies. Like, it just cuts screen to black if you think about it, right?
Yeah, so wow. So that's crazy if you really think about that.
Yeah, Prismo puts like his mega Prismo TV wall screen on, and that wall is just following Finn. It's not like he has somebody out in the field with a camera on. So if anything, why would that screen have gone black unless like Farm World Finn just got killed by evil
they're
evil
focusing
Jake.
The TV on or whatever. The channel is focused on him. But in the crossover in the future, can you spoil, like, is there a Farm World Finn that we're seeing in that future episode? I think it's called crossover. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe my theory is kind of wrong. There is that crossover episode coming in season 7, which goes back to explaining kind of the rest of this Farm World story as it pertains to a cosmic crime that was committed, and Prismo being involved yet again. It's like a past Prismo getting involved with it's a lot. It's a lot going on that crossover. So you're probably right. I just think it's very weird how that scene does cut.
Well, let's talk about that paradox a little bit. Did you read up on the fan wiki or whatever about the explanation for why that paradox isn't, like, their reasoning for why it works, that we're going to go back to Farm World in the future?
No, I haven't read into it, because again, I think that's more well reserved for when we get to that episode. Otherwise, we're going to ruin like literally 3 or 4 different things that happen in season 6 and season 7. So that's why I personally didn't want to bring that to the table now. Did you? At least.
So you have read that paragraph then on the wiki page?
No,
I'll just read it real fast. Okay, because I don't think it spoils anything.
Okay, so this is just your paradox explainer.
Yeah, this is the paradox explained, and I'll just go ahead and preface this by saying, like, I don't agree. Like, I don't like the logic of how they're explaining through this, the logic of the paradox. I don't think it really fits with my personal house canon, or even just in general. It feels not well put together, in my opinion, but I'll do my best to read through this real fast. The reason why Farm World still exists after Jake made his wish is because since he was still in the time room when Finn left, therefore the Farm World reality did not replace Finn's previous existence. Instead, a paradox was created, and Jake's consciousness split Finn's existence into 2 realities because he remembered the original Finn while Finn was also existing in the wish-altered state in Farm World. After Jake made his wish, Finn was returned to the Prime Universe, but Farm World continued to exist due to the aforementioned paradox. So it's essentially saying, like Jake splits his mind, or splits the idea of both of those realities into 2, and him doing that allows them both to be real, because he never was outside of the time room during Farm World's existence, or something like that. It just feels really roughly put together, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I don't think that's actually too far off, honestly. Okay. Because some of the stuff that is later on explained, and also the concept of split reality Finn because of Jake's wish does actually hold up. Again, that's why I didn't want to read this, because the only way to kind of explain it is to give some spoilers. So,
but I don't like it. I really don't like it. I think it gets into the many worlds theory, which is what I thought we were avoiding altogether. I wanted to avoid that.
But you see, the reason why this is a split, it would be a split thing, is just because Finn and Jake were in the time room together. So hypothetically speaking, had almost everybody's wish has whoever ends up in the box with Prismo in the time room has the ability to split many worlds, but those worlds necessarily aren't infinite, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just, again, that bothers me in the sense that, to me, because we learned this is a reality, right? I mean, we're in the time room, and Prismo says, when he, meaning Finn, wished the Lich to have never existed, Finn left my time room and entered his wish-altered reality. So that's Prismo confirming that this is truth, this is real, this is the new Finn, this is the new timeline, as it were. Everything has changed because there was no Lich up until this point. And then by undoing that, it stops Farmworld from ever existing in my mind. Farmworld never existed because the Lich's wish was altered.
I think it's stating, though, the fact that Jake knows the fact that his wish brought them back to that original moment, that splits it there. He now is in a reality where he's aware of what happened in the past, but this Finn that he's with now is not aware of Prismo. And actually, one of my notes, not even in terms of this,
he's aware of Prismo because he was there
because
for
he
that.
sees him. Yeah, but I'm saying aware of Prismo in the sense that, like, just that one conversation with Prismo, pretty much.
Okay.
So I was like, oh yeah, that is an interesting concept, that Jake now is friends with Prismo. It explains why in future episodes, Jake goes to Prismo's house to party all the time, and Finn's like not invited, because Jake and Prismo are friends, but Finn and Prismo are not. So,
oh man,
I was like, yeah, it is interesting now that the way the way he did his wish. If he had done it with, like, I wish the Lich's wish was for Finn and Jake to go home, and for Finn to never have made the wish that the Lich never existed. But it is kind of like, it's just like, where it's how far do the writers want to go down into, this is our belief on how time paradoxes work. Yeah. So it's just kind of, it's you disagreeing with the way the writers do an explanation of a paradox.
I guess I don't like it.
Let it play out.
I'm sorry, I guess I don't like it.
For now, I would say don't like it for now. That is okay for you to hold that opinion. I have a feeling that will change. But again, hold on to that feeling for now.
I just think it should have just not been the case. Like, Farmworld should not exist entirely anymore, right? It should just be gone. And if we're going to go back to it somehow, it could be through Jake's imagination, or through Jake's dreams, or through Jake's mind, or something, because he has seen that and he knows what that would have looked like.
You're kind of getting on even another Prismo type topic too. So that's even hold on again. Just don't dig too much into theoreticals, because you might spoil it for yourself.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Well, I do want to talk about a little bit, because I keep mentioning it, and I know last episode we mentioned it, many worlds theory, and of course, people that watch Rick and Morty, and I'm sure there are other medias that I just am not super familiar with, have touched many worlds theory a ton. But I did a little bit of very minor research just to have like a short paragraph explanation of what many worlds theory is. And so I do apologize, because I'm about to read more. This is the most I've ever read on this podcast. And I got to say, reading out loud and even public speaking, one of my least favorite things. So, here we go. Anyways, many worlds theory, the interpretation of quantum mechanics that implies the infinite amount of universes. So, let's talk about the quantum mechanical Schrödinger cat paradox. According to the many worlds interpretation, in this interpretation, every quantum event is a branch point. The cat is both alive and dead even before the box is opened, but the alive and dead cats are in different branches of the multiverse, both of which are equally real, but do not interact with each other. So in Adventure Time, it's not that case, right? There is not one, or there's not now 3 Finns in separate multiverses. One multiverse without humans, one multiverse with humans, one of those with humans with the Lich, one of those with humans without the Lich. So we didn't just split the universe into 3 scenarios, like I just said, right? It's straight up, we're just going with our reality. Our reality is what it is, except for, as we just talked about, there's a farm world paradox as well. But we have our reality, our one timeline, and that's the timeline that matters. And that's Adventure Time.
Yeah, and I think that's, we are not getting into the many worlds theory, because if Jake's wish had to do with something like, I wish that lumpy space, everything was blue, like, it actually wouldn't have affected Finn's wish. It wouldn't have affected anything else, and it would have affected lumpy space. And then Jake would have more than likely jumped back to his own timeline, or the timeline that, he would have jumped back to his own timeline, which would now not have Finn in it. So essentially, wishes can branch off into and create new universes. And again, kind of do a duplicate idea of like, oh yeah, you have your canon universe and your wish affects you and your canon universe, or something like that.
That does make me curious. Is there an LSP Finn, like for the dimension, for that universe? Is there an LSP Finn that we've just never met?
No, that's not how that works at all.
That's not how that works out.
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
Anyways, well, just curious.
No, it's not at least not to the knowledge. If there is, it's just non-existent at that point.
And again, that my thought of that is simply because I've seen Fern. I have no information about him. I don't know anything about Fern other than I'm like, he looks like Finn.
Yeah, because we never hear if they are in lumpy space, so we never hear anything about there being a potential lumpy Earth. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that'd be interesting.
Maybe that
on the other side of the universe.
Yeah, maybe that is something that there is a lumpy choose goose. There is a lumpy Finn. There is a lumpy. There is but they all live on lumpy ooh. Who knows?
Oh my gosh! Now give me your lumpy choose goose impression. Can you do that?
I was like, I almost was about to do it. I was like, I can't even do LSP and choose goose, and that's too much.
If someone does that, and posts it on Instagram, tag us in your story, and we'll repost it on our story. That would be amazing.
Lumpy choose goose would be a very hard voice to nail down. So please put that on Instagram.
Some rhyming and the lumpy Valley Girl thing.
Did you have any more thoughts? I want to move away from multiverse because we will argue ourselves into an infinite loop of just like what ifs. And I want to get away from some what ifs and focus on this episode.
Yeah, I don't think I have any more what ifs or any more, and maybe it'll pop up later on. But I'm not seeing anything. I'm scrolling through my notes and I'm not seeing anything. So what do you want to talk about, Ned?
Yeah, no, I mean, I had several, like, not necessarily even deep thoughts, but things that I thought were rewatching this episode as a bajillionth time, probably, that I kind of caught and had never really thought about before. The first is kind of pertaining to Jake and Jake's story with Prismo, and the second is pertaining to Finn and this Ice King or Ice Simon, everything there. So kind of split the story into two. The first one is, I jumped into this episode going, Jake mistake is because Jake wishes for a sandwich and he's not trying to help Finn.
Yeah, and that's not how wishes work, man.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he literally made the wish. It should be game over. That's it. I'm sorry, you made your wish, bud.
That's why, I think Prismo might take my lovely again for this week. If not Prismo, then it is Jake, actually.
Yeah.
But Jake, I think Jake is a very, very close second lovely for this one. Prismo's a bro, though, because he's like, that's not your wish. I'm going to tell you that's not your wish right now. It helps him make his wish to negate the monkey paw aspect of Prismo's wish, which there still is kind of a monkey paw aspect to it. Just letting you know.
Okay. So we're going to see that later on. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh. But at the end of the day, I was like, that was like, my possible Jake mistake. After kind of like rewatching it and listening to Jake talk about watching Finn in this universe, he's got a really good concept that there's no rush. Like, this universe just they're outside of like time and space. There's no rush to like jump in and save him now versus later. And he's like, my boy Finn's got this. I want to see how it plays out. So
I felt a little weird about that. You liked that moment?
I liked that moment because it was like, hey man, like I don't have to jump in and interrupt what Finn's adventure is and what Finn's decision made. I've got the opportunity to watch this play out. I've got the opportunity to see if Finn, honestly too, because if he's like the universe without the Lich could be a better universe, and I think Jake believes that Finn's wish was good. Wish.
Let's see what happens. But that's the mindset. That's the mindset he's taken this entire season or this entire series. Yeah, he's constantly just like, oh, Finn's doing his thing. Like I'm gonna, I got a game plan. I'm gonna make a hula dancing girls song, and he's gonna save the day, and it's gonna all work out. And if it doesn't seem like it's working out, then I'll step in, and that's kind of what he does in this episode.
Yeah, but I think it's executed well. Yeah. I mean, Prismo basically saves him because Jake's like, oh, shoot, I didn't realize that this was this bad. And then Prismo's like, I was trying to like push you to see how bad it was. Now can you make that like wish?
I mean, Jake does claim that he kind of saved the day at the end of this episode. He's like, oh, I did it. It was all me. But he's certainly, it's his charisma. It kind of is him. He won over Prismo. Prismo is a guy who is doing his own thing. He's not held to the same morals that we are, the same moral code that we are, right? He could have the universe end or all of existence be gone, and it doesn't really matter to him. He's going to move on. Yeah. Eventually that'll come back somehow. Yeah, or there'll be a monkey's paw aspect to that wish even, which there was in this way.
If it really, it's not, I mean, honestly, the only thing that is potentially threatening to Prismo is possibly the Lich wishing for nothing else to exist. But at the end of the day, that's why Prismo's not super concerned about Finn's farm world. He's like, besides the fact that it's Jake's friend, he's just like, dude, you need to like check out, if you want to save your friend, like you probably need to intervene right now, Well,
that's why he's my lovely, for sure. Prismo won it this episode finally. I think it's his, like, I'm just enjoying being myself and caring about the people and the things that I care about. And that's Jake now, because Jake won me over with his charisma and his like, oh man, you're like one of my favorite 3 guys or whatever.
Yeah,
the whole
top
speech,
3,
right? He's like, I love you, Prismo.
Top 3 for total cool guys.
Yeah. And then the Cosmic Owl and doing game nights with the Cosmic Owl. And what's not to love about that? I mean, I do think it's a little weird where he certainly is a little bit of a guy where he kind of can do anything. And it doesn't really feel like the only rule book that he has is that every wish has to have a little bit of a monkey's paw aspect to it. But otherwise, he can kind of do what he wants. And if someone makes a wish and he doesn't agree with the wish, he can kind of be like, well, think about it. Is that what you really want? As he does in this episode, which totally breaks, the wish rules that I live by personally. But
he can do, well, that's kind of the crazy thing with Prismo is he can do anything within the confines of his time room. Anything else that happens outside of the time room has to be an effect of somebody who's made a wish in the time room or going in and out of the time room. So
except for the pickles that he gives Jake at the end of this episode.
Yeah, we can't send pickles out of the time room. That's very true. So
I don't really know what's up with that. But it is really interesting, his explanation. I don't know if you want to get into the monkey's paw thing now, or should we do that after commercial?
I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. I didn't think we need to go like read the definition of a monkey's paw.
No, well, the story is really fascinating. I don't know if you saw the story of where that comes from.
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, then we'll do that after the commercial break.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, what's up? It's little Destiny, you donks and dinguses. My big brother, Big D, is a total jerk and a poser. Don't listen to that fool. He once told me that crowns are for wimps, and now look at him. He's got his crown in his shorts. Like, come on, man. Ugh, I can't stand him. But at least you didn't have to meet our dad, old D. He's wrinkled, not well kept, hasn't seen action in decades. Just a sad old jerk of a dude. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the podcast, or else you'll be riding a one-way ticket to Junktown. Oh, yeah. Who's going to do it? Is it me? Is it you?
I'm coming back in.
Who's coming back in? I'm coming back.
You coming back in? You, me?
You? Oh, look at us. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought? Not me. That was like 7 references in one intro, by the way, guys. So.
I don't know, man. Anyways.
That was Night in the Roxbury meets Paul Rudd on some interviews. So.
Hot one.
It was a Hot Ones interview, yeah.
It was Hot Ones, yeah. With Sean Evans. Gosh, not my rec, but if you don't know what Hot Ones is, are you living in the cave?
Show. Yeah, so you do have to either not be on YouTube or socials or like any sort of memes at all to not know what Hot Ones is.
Yeah. Well, Ned, as I mentioned before we went into the break, I want to talk about the monkey's paw thing. I know we're diving a lot into kind of how all of this works. And as you mentioned, like, this is my first watch through, so I don't have a full grasp of what's going on, as the later episodes will explain a lot more, I'm sure. But the monkey's paw thing fascinated me, and I did just a lot of random research on things that I thought were interesting this episode. And monkey's paw was certainly one of them. I was like, what is this? Where does this come from? I mean, you have a little bit of Prismo explaining it. He's like, you wish for a back rub. Who's going to give it to you? Is it a dirty bear? Is it the masseuse? Where's the masseuse come from? Like,
you're altering other worlds. Yeah.
And Jake's like throwing up at the idea of
I think also that takes my tops of the episode is when Jake is so overwhelmed that he just goes,
oh my gosh,
and like throws up in the hot tub.
Yeah, he's like, the potential of worlds could be evaporated by your wish, and he just can't take it. That's probably my tops too. I think that moment was so good. And Prismo, I don't know, man. I really loved Prismo in this episode. I was really surprised.
Yeah, I think I was getting super pumped about Prismo last episode, and now like kind of getting into this one, you're like, oh, I get why you were super excited about him coming in last episode, but because he just seems like a chill dude. He seems like he loves that, but he has now. Do you think the monkey paw aspects are just? I think the monkey paw concept, which I want you actually read the definition before we get too much into it.
Well, let's have a definition and more of it's a short story. It's a short story called The Monkey's Paw that comes from, it was published in September of 1902 by the author W.W. Jacobs. And it's a really fascinating short story. I mean, I'll summarize it.
Yeah, don't read the whole thing.
No, certainly. Oh my gosh, there's no way. I would hate myself. I would tell everybody not to listen to this podcast. No, essentially what happens is this Sergeant Major Morris, a friend of this family, comes to them, and he's been away in India, right, with the British Army. And he's got this monkey paw in his hand, and he kind of warns the family. He's like, things have been going really bad, or like things are horrible because of, and this maybe, I may be totally ruining this story, but this is my interpretation of how it is. And he's like, don't use this. You can have 3 wishes. And I'm guessing, because I haven't read it, he explains what the monkey's paw can do. It grants 3 wishes, but every time you make a wish, something bad happens in return, just like in this episode of Adventure Time. And so he throws it in the fire. The father, Mr. White, gets it out of the fire. He's very skeptical about it. He even, it's kind of explained that he believes he has everything that he already wants. So he's not doesn't really need to use it, but it's so intriguing, right? Could you imagine having 3 wishes of anything that you want? And so what's he do? He, of course, his son convinces him, let's do something pretty small. Like, what about 200 euros, just in order to pay off the final mortgage payment for the house. And what ends up happening is the next day, his son goes to work, and then some workers from his work come and say, hey, your son died, and the company feels terrible, but they're not going to take blame for this. So what they can do is they're going to give you a little bit of a payment or whatever to the bereavement of the family, 200 euros. So the wish comes true, they get it, but their son is mangled and dies in this factory. And so, of course, they're just totally distraught. And the mom's begging the dad, use the other wish to wish for him to come back. And so he does that. And then as the son, as we're assuming it's the son, is knocking on the door to come in, and the mom is just doing everything she can to open the door and see her son finally again, and is just so excited. The dad realizes oh my gosh, his body was mangled and he's going to look like a nightmare, and he's probably a tortured he's being tortured or whatever it is. Like life is not what it used to be for him. And also this is not going to give us that kind of like fulfillment of seeing our son again. And so he wishes basically that his son wasn't alive or that the last wish didn't happen. It's, dude, what a story, man. I mean, it makes me want to read it. It sounds really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like possibly longer than a short story, but a medium story potentially. But
medium story.
Yeah, well, and that's like, I mean, there's that, and then there's a great Rick and Morty episode where like Summer uses a little monkey's paw, but it is all around like the devil putting curses on items that like,
and that's probably what it is, right?
It's funny to me because it's not like I don't think because Prismo wants to help Jake out at the end of the day. But he's like, hey, I got to warn you, my wishes have a tendency to have this effect. Now, so Prismo's, there's no, like, I'm doing this on purpose. I'm doing this to screw with people. And because otherwise he'd be like, okay, well, Jake, like, let me help you out then. He's like, no, you have to do this perfectly or else there will be some aspects. So in my opinion, with really a lot of the effect that you see, at least in Finn's playing out of the wish and the Lich's playing out of the wish, is that the concept of the monkey paw of like, it not going the way you wanted it to go is that, again, going back to what we talked about last week, is that the universe has some sort of destiny, some sort of this is your fate mentality about it. So no matter what you wish, the universe will correct itself.
Yeah, it's kind of autocorrect to some degree. Yeah,
the monkey paw concept of it is that it's the monkey paw's aspect is that's the universe correcting itself. Because remember when the Lich's face, gargles up and he says, "I wish for Finn and Jake to go home." Prismo looks at Jake and goes, "Check that out. See, monkey's paw."
Which is great, right? Because even the Lich's wish has a monkey paw, which is the rest of the other wishes that Finn and Jake had. And then I'm so curious because like you just said, man, like Jake's wish has to have some sort of a cursed aspect to it, even though it does kind of tie a nice little bow on the episode. There's going to be like an issue with that bow, right?
Jake's issue is that it does split this reality with there's a Finn with the knowledge of the Lich's original wish, and there's a Finn without that. So I think Jake is unaware that there is this kind of existent Finn out there that he didn't truly save per se. But
man, I almost made another Rick and Morty. If you're playing along at home, you're listening along at home, you're playing the drinking game along at home. I'm sure you all know this. Anytime we say anything about Rick and Morty or One Piece, you have to take a shot. So I hope you're doing well.
Please don't play while you're driving and listening to this podcast.
No, that would be terrible. I just said as we keep bringing both of those up,
it's hard not
I want to talk about One Piece.
I don't like doing too much Rick and Morty stuff. It's just hard not to when you start talking about like split universe stuff.
Yeah, and as we mentioned previously, like it is one of the more recent cultural phenomenons that had these aspects written into it. So, of course, it's going to come up a bit for us. Just two dudes, two brothers.
Just two brothers.
Talking about Adventure Time. But no, tell me about Finn, man. You had some thoughts on Finn and how Finn goes about everything in this episode.
Yeah, now kind of stepping away from kind of the Prismo, the Jake, that aspect of the story. The whole second part, like you said, the snap your neck back around is going to the Finn story, which is very self-explanatory. He puts the crown on, he flies up, he takes the fire out, he tries to destroy the Destiny gang, knocks the bomb loose, goes off, protects himself,
freezes his family, freezes Barbar and himself,
and then
he's
realizes
pulling an Avatar, right? Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's doing the save Appa thing for fans of that show, where he saves Barbar along with himself. It is really cool to see that the ice is like enough
to from
I love that.
You see that cool. There's another character that comes down later in Adventure Time called Patience St. Pym, where same thing, Patience St. Pym actually protected herself with ice per se during the original Mushroom Wars. That's all I'll say about that. Not too bad of a spoiler drop.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which I like kind of the potential callback to this, and you remember the Ice King put Finn and Jake, I think, in an ice dome when he was trying to like protect them from Scorcher. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I do remember
Scorcher
that.
was hunting them. So there is this ice is a powerful thing.
Yeah. It's so funny that Jake sees Barbar on the TV, and this was like my funniest moment for sure of this episode. And he's like, "Oh man, Finn's Mad Uglies," and then he sees Barbar and he goes, "Oh, I'm Mad Uglies too.
I'm Mad Uglies too.
Dang man, I look so ugly in this world. I hate this."
Which is it's funny because it is showing he's not watching the story enough to.
He's not paying attention. It's not at all. Oh man.
But there's two big aspects with Finn putting on the crown in this episode that I think are very interesting. Is that the first thing is he puts on the crown willingly, trying to optimize its powers to the best of his ability, for the same intention that Ice King in canon universe does it. But he's like, I'm going to protect Marceline, but I'm not going to I don't want to use the power of the crown. I don't want the crown to take over me. This is a last resort. Finn is just like, I've got this power strapped to my belt. Why would I not use it? I'm going to put it on because I want to be powerful and stop the Destiny Gang and stop this. And
save my family. And
so you can see immediately that Finn is way more powerful than Simon is with his Simon and Marcy episodes, because he totally by free will
just
succumbs to the power of the crown. Just embraces it. Which is why his hair grows. He starts flying. Same with kind of how the Ice King uses his beard. Finn uses his sweet blonde hair.
Beautiful blonde hair.
And immediately, I think there is a whole theory about Adventure Time. It's magic, madness, and sadness. And that it's not a direct correlation between all of those at all. But there's a lot of proof that, like Magic Man is so sad and he's so crazy. That's why his magic is so powerful. And Abracadaniel is not sad at all and not crazy at all and not a very powerful magician either. So there is all this concept. And so I think in this instance that because the crown itself is the source of the magic, it's not a mutation, it's not being a wizard. It is coming from the crown. The crown grants him that immediate like boost of magic, which also immediately boosts his madness and his sadness.
It does. Totally does.
Which is why I think it's a crazy funny parallel that as soon as he gets mad and crazy enough, he's the one that actually pushes his family away. He's like, I'm too dangerous to be around. You've got to go. Ice King does the same thing to Marceline. He goes, I'm too powerful to be around. You've got to go. And so I think it's a wonderful, wonderful parallel of Farm World Finn to real world canon Ice King,
Yeah, Dan, that's cool, man. I kind of took that moment of him pushing his family away as part of his monkey's paw curse. It seemed to me like Finn's monkey's paw curse has multiple parts. It's like he becomes the Ice King of his world, which he would never let that happen in the actual land of Ooh, right? He triggers the bomb. He disappoints his family and he's forced to separate from them forever. And he creates the Lich. Like Finn has the worst of all of the monkey's paw events or curses that happen in this episode. Finn's is definitely just like, 3 or 4-fold. It's pretty wild, all the stuff that he deals with and suffers from.
That's a good point to bring up. And I also, going along with what you said, creates the Lich. I think this is a different Lich too. I think obviously this character, spoiler, kind of comes back. Like this Lich is existent, but it's not the original Lich, because Finn did you can't change the fact that Finn's wish was the Lich never existed. I think it was just like he should have said, like, I wish for evil to never have existed. I wish for this, honestly, it's just the bomb green stuff can turn things into monsters. And so I think the original Lich was something that got turned into a monster and was really powerful. And then this thing is a whole separate monster because it's Jake at the core. And the original one was
that's what I was curious about.
At the core.
If there is, like, if they really go into the details of why it is or how it is that the Lich stems out of these beings? Like, is it the darkest, deepest, like worst aspects of Jake that get like hyper focused into creating or mutated into creating this Lich character? Because you
it's
said
not
it is
necessarily
like
that, because it's not necessarily that.
Yeah.
Because I remember like when PB falls into the pit in the first season, second season, like she doesn't like necessarily become the Lich. She becomes a different like evil monster. Remember?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's kind of why I think this looks like the Lich, talks like the Lich. It's this universe version of the Lich, but it's not the Lich. It has to be something else totally different, you know?
Yeah. Can I ask a very selfish question? Because I know anyone that's seen the show is like, yeah, of course it would know.
And guys, I've seen the show. This is one thing I've forgotten about a little bit with like very, very multi-timeline Lich universe, whatever. So I could be wrong on this one. I definitely am not staking claim as the expert on this topic.
I think that's smart. I mean, it's such a big show. Like, how could, you know?
Yeah, trust me. People call us out and they're like, have you even watched the episodes? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm trying not to just spoil it again for me. I'm trying to watch it episode by episode.
No, I haven't. That's what I like to say. I'm like, no, dog. Of course I haven't. No, it's. I don't know. I don't even know where I was going. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Well, that's cool, man. I like thinking. Oh, I was curious. What is it that Ice King had to protect Marceline from? Because he's like, he had to keep Dawn in the crown, keep protecting her, or he wants to protect her. Like, is it more bombs? Is it more the mutations that are occurring or something?
It's like mutation-y type stuff. It's post-apocalyptic world stuff. Cool, and they have an episode that will come up in 20 or so episodes in this season that shows that whole development on how that part happened.
That's so exciting. Love it. Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, man, I thought this episode was fun again because I've seen it 1,000 times. I could have just been like, oh yeah, like Jake has a wish and Finn destroys the world. And that it's kind of cool to look at it from that magic, madness, sadness perspective, that it is that whole like history has to repeat itself, like or not history repeats itself, like there's the destiny, the universe is destined to be a certain way. And no matter like what an individual's wish is, the universe will find a way to have events play out the way it wants to. Yeah. If that makes sense.
And Marceline in this universe really has the worst of it. Yeah, I feel so sorry for Marceline in the farm world. She's hung out with a skeleton that has been like speaking to her occasionally in her head for 1,000 years, just protecting the crown, I guess. And she's just, I don't know. And then she gets sucked up into the bomb guck or whatever. Yeah.
And she doesn't even turn into, I would assume that she doesn't turn into an evil being, probably because of the half demon mentality of her. Like maybe she's not susceptible to being influenced by other evil things per se. Yeah. That's another little theory on the side, maybe.
Yeah. I just feel bad for Marceline.
Yeah. She just gets booted and her just like disintegrates into the pit, which sucks.
Yeah. And Finn doesn't listen to her. Like it's like all her 1,000 years of hard work for nothing, just for Finn to ruin it in like an afternoon.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Which sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I wanted to show you one thing again, because you know this crossover episode is coming, that the only reference to that coming is the fact that when Marceline runs back to the Ice King, when Finn's like, smashing lightning bolts on the ground, she goes back and the Ice King skeleton has the crown on its head again. And apparently that is explained later in the crossover episode.
Oh, okay. So
that's like season 7. Yeah.
That's not just a mistake that they
That's
did?
not just a mistake.
Oh.
It might have originally been, but I think that maybe they caught that mistake and they knew that there was going to be another crossover episode, so they did an explanation behind it. But I wanted to see if you had caught that at all.
No, I didn't catch that, but that's fascinating to hear about.
So there was a little reference in this one.
Yeah. Dude, Finn's monologue when he's sitting on top of Big D, it's kind of nuts. He's just like equating himself to being a god, essentially. It's unreal how quickly, because like you're saying, right, he's totally succumbed to and taken advantage of the powers of the crown that have totally driven him nuts. His hair's growing, his eyes are blue, like he can't control his powers. I mean, at the very end of the episode, I think, or right before the Lich comes out, you see him just like holding Jake of that world and just screaming like, what a
power of frost, yeah.
Power of frost, power
and
of
so
frost.
He would,
and like going insane.
As that was happening, until, he just thought Jake was dead at that point. Until Jake comes out and, like monsters it up. He was probably going to keep yelling power of frost until the world frosted over. I think that was what was happening. He was calling at the end, and he was like, that's it. We're not going to have legions of ice, whatever. We're just going to freeze the world right now. So,
well, and I love the monologue. I think it's worth going back and rewatching this episode alone just to see Finn's like pinnacle of insanity prior to those events that occur. And really, if you could cut up like to separate the two, so you weren't getting such a whiplash going back and forth. And I think it works really well. I'm giving it a hard time for going back between the A and the B story, but I do think it works super well because you almost need a little bit of a break. But I would love to see a cut of just Farm World straight, or of just
for somebody to not cut it with the Prismo interruptions in the middle.
To trim that out and have it like after the fact or something like that. So you could just like really live in that. But I think it does a good job, and I definitely felt the emotional impact of that scene, despite the fact that we're about to jump into them being like, oh man, I just, like I don't like relationships because you have to think about what you're going to eat. You got to plan it out. And Prismo, the time god, is like, it's a bummer. All the people I date don't want to just sit on the couch and, magically have food appear in front of them. You have to plan it out.
Kind of plan it out. No, but I love that. That's, Jake in his potential JT Dog Zone theory that he is JT Dog Zone. He's like, we got to get that guy a girlfriend. So, he's going to
give him his book.
He's going to give him the book potentially. So yeah, if Prismo in the future ever ends up reading JT Dog Zone, let's theorize that it was Jake that gave it to him for sure.
That would be such a cool callback if that actually happens.
That would be a great callback. No, JT Dog Zone comes up, I think, a few more times, but it's a little bit more subtle than last time. Yeah.
Also, freaking Cosmic Owl, dude. I'm sorry, but we finally got him in an episode, and like a substantial amount.
He's just a chill dude. Like, Cosmic Owl can only travel into people's dreams, So Prismo's dealing with multiple universal realities, and Cosmic Owl's just dealing with people's dreams. So that's a good reason for them to be pretty good buddies.
Where does he live? Where does he dwell?
He has a different, space of his own that's somewhere out in the multiverse. Because Prismo's is the only one that's out in the time room at the center of the universe. And the Cosmic Owl's dwelling is way more like, I don't think it sits within one universe, but it's in between the space of other universes, if I'm not mistaken there.
Interesting. Well,
again, quasi-corporeal being. I'll keep bringing that back up.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, dang. I mean, I feel like I've went through all my notes, unless you got something else you want to talk about with this episode.
No. I just say that, and then I just almost back up tops for this episode is when he just sits down in his little Jake chair, and he's like, "Love you, Prismo." And Prismo's like, "Oh, stop it!" That again, almost had that plus the puking were like the toss up tops for this episode. But I love Jake's ability to just make friends with chill people, and hang out in hot tubs with crazy cosmic beings and just be like, this is a jam. You guys are the best. So
yeah, he's a good
reasons
to
be more like Jake. Yeah. But what are your lessons, man? What did you learn from this episode?
Oh man. Well, I think I learned what my monkey's paw scenario wish would be. And it was tough to think about this and really come up with a good one, but I would wish for 2 sandwiches.
2 sandwiches. Well, my first lesson on mine was don't wish upon a sandwich because you got to earn that shit. You got to make that sandwich. But good sandwiches are earned because we will get to the ultimate sandwich episode.
The ultimate sandwich
this season. And yeah, you got to earn that. You got to work for that shit.
Well, I just thought, I was like, man, maybe the monkey's paw curse of Jake's wish for a sandwich would be that he could have had more sandwiches. So that's why I went with 2. I want 2 sandwiches. Yeah. And then maybe I'll regret not getting 3, and that's fine.
Maybe not.
I'm okay with that.
That's you might throw them up. That might be the monkey's paws. 3 might be too much.
They'd probably be poisoned, right? And I would die or something like that. So maybe I don't want sandwiches. I don't know. Do you have a monkey's paw wish? What would you do?
I don't know if I had a monkey's paw wish. I have an interesting concept of what I would think would not be monkey paw. It would be like, what do you call it? Like not prone to a monkey paw would be.
Yeah.
No matter what I wanted to purchase, I would always have a check in my pocket for that exact amount of what I wanted to purchase.
That's good wish.
You know, it's something that's still someone was like, what if they don't take checks? And again, if it was cash, it was like, I want to buy a boat, and then the cash, your pocket would just explode, you know, with
well, you have checks, but you don't have the money in your bank anymore. That's the thing.
Like a check with that amount, but the money's not actually in the bank. So yeah, it would be something, but there's a way to be like, I wish that there was the exact amount of money that I could pull out one at a time. Even if it's 500,000 bills, like
but then it would work. You'd buy a house and it would take you forever.
Buy a house of just like hours of just like hold on. And then the monkey paw aspect of that is like, the IRS would be on your ass immediately.
Oh, totally. So where's this money coming from?
You couldn't purchase anything. You couldn't buy a house.
No, could you imagine
you
that?
could slowly launder that money. You would have to become a money launderer. So. That's the monkey's paw aspect.
Is it worth it?
So I don't really have a perfect one.
Oh man, I don't know if I have one then. I think you could really like
no, you could really
through anything.
You could cut a hole through most everything unless it was simplified. Like, I wish for this specific pair of shoes that perfectly fit my feet. Like that's I think the lesson behind the monkey's paw is like if you are to like wish something, like you got to keep it like realistic.
I wish I had a cool
change your universal life. Yeah.
I wish I had a cool podcast with one of my closest friends, and then about a cartoon show, and then I end up hating it. Could you imagine? We do this podcast and we're 2 years in and I'm just like miserable. that would not be good. I'm glad it didn't go that way.
Get out of here.
Yeah, no, it's good. I like it. I'm just saying that would be a real curse, a monkey's paw curse for sure.
That would be terrible. But that does lead to my final lesson is the shortcut way of solving your problems is usually almost always going to blow up in your face.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So that's kind of the monkey's paw of life.
Don't cut corners.
It's the shortcut way usually does not work. And maybe that's just a movie lesson, but good thing to try to apply.
I like it. Yeah, no, I like it. Well, man.
Any recommendations this week too?
Oh, I don't know if I've done this before. I tried to look it up in my notes app to see if I had read this before. I don't think I have. The other day we went back and we watched Totoro, the Studio Ghibli film.
Oh, yeah. No, we just did Spirited Away, so we haven't done any other ones. Besides, or a couple months ago, like two and a half months ago.
Wait, you watched it or we recommended it?
No, me and Jackie finally watched that. That was our first Studio Ghibli movie. So that
what'd you think?
I needs a second watch. The first watch was very caught off guard.
Oh yeah,
I'd appreciate a second watch. Yeah, lots going on. So
I highly recommend it. Totoro is sick. Totoro is very simplistic in story, but every time I watch it, I think I'm like sitting there. There's a matter of events there's two girls, right? They move with their dad to the countryside of Japan, and their mom is sick in a hospital, and they're kind of just going about life. And the girls discover there's a spirit of the forest named Totoro, and the little girl can see it. And then she goes and visits Totoro, and then, and so on and so forth. And the story goes of them just like kind of getting lost, and, the older siblings looking for the younger sibling and stuff. But in the meantime, like there's always this kind of throwback to like, oh, the mom's in the hospital and she's sick. And when people are sick, sometimes they can, I don't know, like they're closer to the spirit world or whatever. And her kids being young are also closer to the spirit world. And there's all these like fun little, I don't know. It's just a really amazing adventure. It's really cute. Cool. It's adorable. Yeah. Great music, incredible artwork. I think my favorite thing about this story, other than the fact that like what I was saying, like one time I watched it and I couldn't stop thinking about like my great grandparents in North Carolina and their small town. And I have no idea why, but that was just stuck in my head. Like they'll touch something in the story and then you'll just be like, oh my gosh, my mind is wondering. Oh, it's amazing. So But the best part about Totoro is the artwork. I think it's just beautifully drawn. A lot of what, and I could be off on this, but I'm pretty sure from research that I've done or reading stuff that I've done, a lot of the Ghibli films are like basically art pieces that he would do initially and go like create a storyboard out of like keyframes. Yeah. And then write a story off of all these beautiful keyframes. So there's so many keyframes throughout the movies, like the one that you just watched, or Totoro, where I'm like, man, if they freeze framed right here, if I paused, I could have a poster of that.
You could have a beautiful, I actually watching a lot of movies that way of like this screen still is beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that's what Ghibli's like best
known for.
Like, I love,
and it shows a little bit of the possible like randomness in some of the stories, that it is just kind of you're connecting 14 freeze frames of all different concepts, all different animals, all different spirits, and like somehow making a story out of it. That's cool. And
it may not always be how he does it, but that is like, I want to say that's how Totoro was written, and that could totally be wrong. But anyways, I think they're just gorgeous films, and I highly recommend checking out Totoro if you've never seen it. Ned, I recommend you check it out. It's good.
I will see. I don't think it's. I got to give Jackie a lot more time between the last Studio Ghibli and the next one. She was not a huge fan. I was like, I get it. I get where they're going.
What is it about it that she didn't like?
It felt like a fever dream, because we didn't know anything about it. We just heard it was really good. We stepped into it. The beginning of it, I loved.
It's a fever dream. Spirited Away.
It's a straight up fever dream. And she was like, this gave me very weird feelings. It wasn't that comfort film like it is for a lot of people.
I think Totoro is a lot better for that, like for what she was looking for. I also think Kiki's Delivery Service would be a great one, because that's just like a fun story about a witch whose job it is to go to a town and like be the witch of that town and be helpful. But I like Totoro probably the best. I think that would be a perfect movie for y'all to watch. And it's just a chill adventure, and it's a little sad. And there's some conspiracy theories about like what it was written about, even though they've denied that that's truly what it's written about. It's great. I highly recommend it.
Nice. All right. I'll put it on my list. My rec is actually very different than yours this week, but was coming back from a trip with some friends this weekend, and my buddy was so hyped up because on the way back on the route we were taking was a Culver's, and we don't have that many Culver's down in the South. And I was like, yeah, I've seen them. I don't ever imagine buttery burgers to be a good thing. Okay. But if you're unaware of what a Culver's is, it is like custard and burgers. Is a chain out of Wisconsin, so way more up north and in the Midwest.
Weird.
But there is one, like on like Highway 5 going south from like North Carolina to Atlanta. So we pull over, go to Culver. The burger itself was fantastic for a fast food burger. Like smash patty, not too greasy. The bun wasn't too greasy. They just asked you like, what did you want on it? And I was like, lettuce, onion, tomato, and some cheese. And it had a double smash patty burger. And I was like, dude, I wasn't over greasy. Most of the time when I eat fast food, compared to like a Big Mac, this made a Big Mac look like you should just never touch it again. honest to God.
Wow.
And I didn't feel like shit afterwards, which most of the time I eat anything fast food. I just like, if it's Chick-fil-A, I love it. Love Chick-fil-A to death, but I feel like shit afterwards. I feel like shit after McDonald's. I feel like shit after, not really Taco Bell, but Wendy's.
Hugh Babies. We had that for dinner tonight.
I've not done Hugh Babies before either. I avoided that one because of that. Because usually it makes me feel like shit. And this burger, I was like, honestly, I feel like I ate something homemade, which was a good vibe.
Wow.
So,
okay, that's
great.
So
highly recommend Culver's. French fries were ass, but they have cheese curds that you're supposed to get instead of French fries.
Okay.
Because it's Wisconsin. They have cheese curds. So
cool.
I need to get that next time. If there's I don't fast food very often, but next time I do, I will find a Culver's, which is, good vibe.
Yeah, I like it, man. That's a good rec, I think, if you're in the way of one of those.
Yeah, if you're road tripping and you're listening to this podcast on a road trip, that's a good place to try to find and stop.
Cool. Well, dude, people can check us out places. Did you know that?
Oh,
have you checked us out? Have you seen our Instagram, Ned?
Yeah. Well, never seen it. No.
Oh, okay. Well, it's Never Ending Adventure Podcasts. That's the username or how you can find us. Ned, did you know we have a TikTok? Anyway, I'm not going to keep doing this. What? There's a Never Ending Adventure Cast is our username for that. Twitter, you can find us at NEA_podcast. Email us your thoughts, your opinions for the Traveler's Log at NEA.travelerslog@gmail.com. Dang it, Ned, I just remembered there was not a Traveler's Log, but someone commented on a post that we just did, and I loved it. I have to tell you about this real fast before we wind up. Because
not a log. I was about to say I would have seen that.
No, not a log. But this is a comment about, and I don't know if this is a Traveler's Log by any means, because who knows if this person's a traveler, but it's about the Lich, right? And it's about that episode, The Lich, which is the first of this 3-part. And this person says, notice how in this episode, Finn chooses who he is most loyal to. Billy over Princess Bubblegum, when PB, who Finn has essentially pledged his loyalty to tells Finn to stop and leave her crown alone. Finn totally ignores her and goes against her will because Billy wanted him to, or goes against her wishes because Billy wanted him to. It shows Finn's current attitude toward PB, which is so wild because we've had that whole episode about, oh gosh, season 4, and then that mindset, like what is his mindset with PB right now? I'm ready to get into that this season. I hope we get to touch a little bit more about their relationship.
Yeah, we do. I think not massively, but I think he no longer idolizes her. I think he no longer thinks she's wiser or perfect all the time or untouchable. And that's really, a good point that he does. She's like, don't do this, don't do, and like, he's like, no, like, I've got to help Billy. I know what's right. And I'm willing to disobey you. Yeah. That's a good point to bring up there.
Yeah. Great comment. Anyways. All right, y'all. You have a fantastic Tuesday or whatever day this is being posted. And just enjoy your life, your day, your time with the people that you have, and be thankful no Lich has messed up this reality yet. And of course,
not yet.
While you can, party forever.
Oh, you got to party forever because I love you guys.